Hello again, this is Eshū, and you're listening to Living Zen, a podcast for seekers and practitioners walking the path of Zen in everyday life. If you're new to practice or curious about getting started, I encourage you to visit zenwest.ca to access the free Orientation to Zen course. It's a great way to ground your practice in solid fundamentals. You can also support this work and access more teachings, reflections, and bonus resources by becoming a patron at patreon.com/redmountainway. Your support helps sustain all the work I do, and more people to access it all over the world. For those looking for one-on-one guidance, I offer personalized mentorship and training through monarchtranswork.com. You'll find links in the show notes. Today there's a couple of phrases that are kind of rolling around in my head. So often when it comes to giving a Dharma talk, when things are persistent like that, I tend to go, okay, what's that about? So one is Gàidhlig, Scottish Gàidhlig, so it's Cuimhnich na daoine tàinig. It means remember the people out of whom you came. And the second phrase that's rolling around in my head comes from Dogen Zenji. To study Zen is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to allow there's lots of different translations, but the 10,000 things to arise in perfect clarity. So it's been quite an interesting and wonderful thing to come back to Zenwest and to start sitting and teaching here again. A big part of that has been that seeing faces come back into the Zendo that I haven't seen for a long time. And to see that people have continued with their practice, one way or the other, to find their way back. Recently, I wrote a piece about ancestors. Not only Zen ancestors, but our biological ancestors as well. And in coming back to Zen practice, one of the things that I've been really keenly aware of is that Zen practice, this form that we have, it acts, I'm always going on about how wonderful Zen practice is, of course. But there's some pitfalls that I think are important to address about Zen practice as well. Because of the way that teachings have been written, because of the way that teachings have been carried, I think there are some pitfalls that people can fall into. And one of these pitfalls is a kind of bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, psychological bypassing, emotional bypassing. A lot of people really gravitate towards Zen because, we get to come together in a room and just sit down with a bunch of other people and just not talk. We get to just be together with people and not have to engage in social relationship, I guess. And while there's a component of that that's true, there's a deeper component where that's completely the opposite of what we're doing when we come into the Zendo. It's not avoiding relationship. It's not unburdening ourselves from the inconvenience of relationship. In a way, it's much more deeply coming into relationship because we're not talking. So when we're approaching our practice in this way, this is why I talk about chanting. This is why I talk about walking the way that I do, because it's a relational practice. It's not about not relating. It's about opening up all of our senses to see that there's no way to avoid that. There's no way to avoid relationship. In every moment of our lives, we are enmeshed in a network of relationships with human beings and other than human beings all the time. There's nowhere we can go. There's nothing that we can do where we're not in relationship. And likewise, when we look at the nature of who we are as human beings, as individual people, me sitting here today, we ask these big Zen questions like, who am I? Does a dog have Buddha nature? I think part of our challenge is that we're indoctrinated into a path or a cycle of learning. It's very short because we've grown up with or seen the evolution of technologies that make intellectual learning happen more and more quickly all the time. We expect this investigation of who we are as human beings, who we are as bodhisattvas, to be something that happens very quickly. And we can come into Zen practice with an idea of, I can get away from a lot of really difficult, uncomfortable stuff and grapple with the real questions, the big questions. And so we can really have this tendency to turn away from or to avoid questions about who we are, even just as human beings. Dogen Zenji, his formula to study Zen is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to allow the 10,000 things to arise. Well, everyone wants to jump to that part. And that's the way we tend to be. We want to jump to the goal. We want to jump to the finish line. We don't want to really spend too much time in these other things. But you'll find if you engage in practice for long enough that these questions cannot be avoided. Sure, we can engage in this deep meditation. We can engage with koans. We can have great awakenings and realizations. One of my first teachers used to say, we can experience this place of no coming and no going, no self and no other, no subject and no object. But you can't stay there. There's no restaurants and there's no toilets. And so we find that we get up off the cushion, we go back out into our lives with this experience. And we're doing it in this body. We're doing it in this place. We're doing it through a frame of the world that's something that is partially inherited, partially imagined, created, and partially imposed. And because this is happening, in some ways from the moment that we're born, and in some ways it's been going on for generations and generations and generations before we were born. And when we arise in this manifestation, we arise in the midst of it. We're conditioned by it. the way that we experience the manifestation of the cosmos is shaped by it. Our practice in Zen, this practice of awakening, is a very powerful investigation of this whole activity. I talk about Zen practice from the sitting to the chanting to the form of meditation or the form of practice in a zendo or on a retreat as ritual technology. These are very powerful instruments, very refined tools for doing this investigation. They've been concocted and refined for hundreds of years, thousands of years. So as we engage in our practice, I think it's very helpful to come and to really get the basic tools, the sitting. The physical sitting is just a means of providing a container, a context for the awareness, your awareness. What we do from there is we take that awareness and we begin to apply it. In the Zendo, we're applying it to what's happening right now, right here, our breath, the sounds that are around us, the physical sensations, the thoughts, the emotions that are arising inside of us. What is that? Just observing. In my experience, one of the most powerful resources that we have in practice is time. Being able to witness patterns arising, existing, dissolving, and fading away over and over and over and over again. It's not that one time that it happens that suddenly everything comes clear. Sometimes it's just seeing that pattern happen over and over, recognizing it as a pattern, and wondering, where does that pattern come from? What's the root of that pattern? If I follow that pattern to its very source, where does it go? I think many people come to Zen practice out of difficult life experiences in the past, things in our childhood, things in our teenage years, sudden traumas that bring us to a place of asking, what's this all about? Buddhism teaches causality. It's one of the principles. Things don't arise without cause. So when we come to engage in this practice, it's not to escape. It's not to avoid. It's not to neglect any aspect of our lives. If anything, it's a powerful ritual technology that allows us to turn towards, with a kind of stability. That stability is strengthened by structure, by this, I think the technology is one thing, the form, maybe we can call it the tradition. It's also strengthened by relationships, by sangha, by community, by being with people that we're moving forward in a kind of honest, raw, vulnerable relationship with. that are able to recognize the challenges of doing this practice because they're doing it themselves. Much like the chanting I was talking about, when we practice in community, there's times where we're really hurting, where we're really up against it, where something has surfaced. We become aware of some aspect of ourselves or our relationships or the content of our lives, and we're struggling. And when we're practicing in Sangha, when we're practicing in community, it's like magic that there are people who are in a place where they're really feeling strong, balanced, stable. And then as we work through those difficult things, as we gain clarity in the motivations why we're doing this and why we're causing ourselves such a difficult time, as we begin to stabilize, you'll find that there are other people in the community. There are other people in your Sangha that are becoming less stable. Something's opened up. They've gained some insight or something has erupted. Some aspect of their social network has broken down and they're on unstable footing. And then we act as the container. We act as the stability. And I think it's important for us to really be able to understand our practice in community in this way. On the one hand, practicing in Sangha is a refuge. I think a lot of people express to me, gosh, I can't talk about this stuff with many people. Gosh, when I want to do this kind of stuff, there's not a lot of people who really kind of get it. And so in that way, it is a refuge. It is a place to come and engage in this kind of practice. But on the other hand, it's not a vacation. It's not free from the responsibility of relationship, the awareness of relationship. It's a place of practice where we have to engage in the activity of being vulnerable. It's a place of practice where we have to come and be willing to engage in a practice of being uncompromisingly genuine or honest with ourselves and with the people that we're engaged in practice with. This is certainly one of the pitfalls of Zen, particularly more, I think, than many other traditions of Buddhism, because there's so much form, there's so much tradition, there's robes and old paintings and all kinds of stuff. And when we're not really stable in ourselves, it becomes really easy to take on a character, to put on a picture, to be what we think we ought to be as good Zen people. Remember the people that you came from. Remember the people out of whom you came. When we're avoiding all of the conditioning that we experienced, when we're suppressing the difficult, even traumatic experiences that we've had, we're actually holding a big part of who we are, who we've become as people, out of our experience, our living experience. It's like we're trying to live, when we talk about, be in the present moment. It's like we can do that without any past. We can do that without any connection to things in the past. We can do that without any thought or any connection of the future. It's like we can chop those two things off and just be, I'm just here, I'm just totally present. But that's a delusion. And I want to be careful, so I hear the bell, but I don't want to leave us here. In order for us to really be present, our experience must contain all of the past. our experience must contain all of the future. These things aren't separate. There's no way to separate them. There's no way to avoid them. This present moment, right now, arises out of everything, every moment that has unfolded in the past. All things in the future arise from this moment that's happening and unfolding right now. They're intimately connected, interwoven. So, as we go forward with this practice together, be kind with yourself. Be kind with, particularly, I think, your past. Be kind with who you have been in this life, because they're the wonderful bodhisattvas that have acted in ways that have brought you to this moment. In one way, I can look at this Gàidhlig phrase, remember the people you arise out of, not just as the parents and grandparents and ancestors, but even the individual me's that have, like nesting dolls, that have manifested generation after generation to this present one. Recognizing that this one is also not me. There will be other me's. Remember the people you came from. Get to know them. Studying the self, forgetting the self. Maybe think of it like when you're with people that you know so well, so intimately, you trust completely. You can be in a place with them and feel like they're not even really there at all. Their presence is so unobtrusive, so unburdensome. It's like they cease being a part of something different, something other. And it's like they become a part of this unified environment. In that way, they're forgotten. When we go out into a beautiful environment, we're out on the beach. Yesterday, I was on Gabriola Island, sitting on the beach with the waves coming in, the sun shining. I can look around and see the sun and waves, wind, children. And then in the space of a breath, all of those little differentiations just drop away. And it's just what it is. It's not like all of those things disappear, but the separation between them does. And we're caught up with them in an unfolding moment. There's no resistance, there's no avoidance, there's no grasping. So I'm going to put this down here for now. Encourage you to take up this practice. Cuimhnich na daoine tàinig. Remember the people out of whom you've arisen. Remember the people you came from. Right. Thanks for listening to Living Zen. If you found something here that resonated with you, please consider taking a moment to rate, review, or share this podcast. It's one of the simplest and most effective ways that you can support this offering. You can explore more about Zen practice at zenwest.ca, and you can check out more of my work by becoming a supporter at patreon.com/redmountainway. If you're ready to dive deeper into exploring your own path, I offer one-on-one mentorship through Monarch Trancework. Details are in the description. Until next time, may your feet be steady on the journey, may your heart be open, and may you have good companions along the way.